9 AD. The Great Illyrian Revolt is suppressed. Roman legions are spread out across the Balkans, finishing off the last groups of rebels. Tiberius has managed the unthinkable. In just 3 years he has dealt with the largest rebellion in the Roman Republic. Octavian Augustus' successor is at the height of his political influence. Only the princeps is above him. The entire capital is preparing to honor Tiberius's achievements. A large-scale triumph is planned in Rome for this occasion. It would seem that this is the perfect moment for a transfer of power. Octavian Augustus could finally relax and hand over all authority to his stepson, who seemed unsinkable after the suppression of the rebellion. But this did not happen. Tiberius will receive power only 5 years later. What went wrong? The war with the Illyrian and Pannonian rebels in 6 to 9 AD became a real challenge for the Roman Republic. For the first time in the history of Rome, an entire region rose up to fight the invaders, and all this happened relatively close to the capital. Octavian Augustus had good reason to fear that the uprising could spread to the Apennine Peninsula, so he spared no expense in suppressing the rebellion. The princeps covered the army's needs first. It even got to the point that grain from Africa was first sent to the soldiers, and only then to the capital. Octavian Augustus' stepson, Tiberius, was appointed commander of the army suppressing the rebellion. In just 3 years, he was able to divide and defeat the enemy troops, using the scorched earth tactic. Thanks to Tiberius, Rome once again proved its effectiveness in crisis management, and the commander himself acquired a reputation as the savior of the Republic. Tiberius was already preparing to leave for the capital after a successful campaign, where a planned triumphal procession awaited him. But all plans went to pieces after terrible news. The experienced Roman army, stationed in the province of Germania, suffered a crushing defeat in the Teutoburg Forest. About 15,000 legionaries died in the heavy fighting, and Rome effectively lost the region. On the occasion of the massacre in the Teutoburg Forest, a 3-day national mourning was declared in the capital. Tiberius' brilliant victory was overshadowed by a military catastrophe in Germany. The commander was forced to cancel his triumph due to ethical and political circumstances. After the defeat of Publius Quinctilius Varus in the Teutoburg Forest, there was a threat of unification of local tribes under the banner of the leader of the Cherusei, Arminius. It was he who won this victory. Most of all, Octavian Augustus feared that Marbod, the leader of the Marcomanni tribe, would join the barbarian alliance. Arminius tried in every way to appease his colleague and show him respect, counting on an alliance. After the battle in the Teutoburg Forest, the leader of the Cherusei tribe sent the head of Publius Quinctilius Varus to Marbod. This was, in a way, an invitation to cooperation. The specific gift did not impress the leader of the Marcomanni. Marbod refused the alliance and sent the head of the murdered commander to Rome. In his actions, he was guided by diplomatic agreements concluded with Tiberius at the very beginning of the Great Illyrian Uprising. Despite the fact that Marbod had refrained from an alliance with the Cherusei, the alliance of the Germanic tribes posed a considerable danger to Rome. The shame of the military disaster of Publius Quinctilius Varus could only be washed away by the blood of the barbarians. Something had to be done about Germany, and urgently. In this difficult task, Octavian Augustus could only rely on Tiberius. The princeps immediately granted him the powers of imperium proconsulare, which allowed him to command armies and manage administrative affairs in the province. Frankly speaking, there was no one to command in Germany. Almost the entire main and garrison army took part in the ill-fated campaign through the Teutoburg Forest. Therefore, Tiberius's first step as commander was a large emergency recruitment of new recruits to replenish Varus' losses. Remembering the campaign in Illyria and Pannonia, Tiberius refrained from rapid action. He understood perfectly well that in 10 AD the forces in the region were not equal, and the barbarian tribes had an obvious advantage in numbers and fighting spirit. Even after quickly replacing 3 destroyed legions, Tiberius did not dare to cross the Rhine. He waited for reinforcements to arrive from the Balkans. At the beginning of 11 AD, legions arrived in Germany, having gained combat experience during the Great Illyrian Revolt. The soldiers were happy to see their victorious commander again. The legionaries loudly chanted his name and showed respect in every possible way when they met. But even with the arrival of fresh forces, Tiberius was in no hurry to launch a full-fledged offensive. Having settled on the banks of the Rhine, he ordered the construction of a large river fleet, since all the Roman ships had been destroyed after the defeat in the Teutoburg Forest. According to Tiberius' plan, the Rhine was to become an important transport artery during the campaign. With a large and equipped fleet, the Romans could quickly move along the river and make landings deep in the enemy's rear. It is important to understand that not all of the left bank of the Rhine was under Roman control. Tiberius began moving north, using the resources of the river fleet. In almost every action, he consulted with his military leaders. Most likely, Tiberius' main goal was not to seize the territory from the Rhine to the Elbe, but to carry out punitive operations. But even here he could not act freely, because any miscalculation could result in a catastrophe for Publius Quintilius Varus. The Romans approached security issues with great responsibility. Any marching camp was fortified with the latest in fortification art. The arriving legionnaires did not know their way around the area, but Tiberius was wary of resorting to the services of local guides. He focused on training his own reconnaissance units in order to quickly receive information from trusted sources as they advanced. Tiberius's subsequent successes are described very sparingly, with each source putting forward a different version. Octavian Augustus' successor was in Germany from 10 to 12 AD, but the effectiveness of his stay is unclear. Let's try to analyze both versions and somehow summarize the activities of the future Roman ruler. Valerius Paterculus is an ancient Roman historian who was a contemporary of Tiberius and participated in military campaigns with him. So, according to Paterculus, Tiberius did manage to capture territories along the left bank of the Rhine and successfully cross the river. Once on the opposite bank, Tiberius fought several successful battles and was able to defeat Arminius' troops, after which he organized a series of punitive expeditions. This version immediately raises a number of doubts. Valerius Paterculus was close to Tiberius, which means he was completely on his side. It is quite possible that the historian's work was written during the reign of Tiberius and, according to established tradition, was complementary. Dio Cassius, the author of the famous work Roman History, lived in the 2nd to 3rd centuries AD. In his work, Tiberius' campaign looks different. According to Dio Cassius, there were no significant military clashes in Germany in the period 10 to 12 AD. An additional argument in favor of Dio Cassius's point of view was archaeological research, which failed to prove either the presence of military roads or traces of charcoal layers. And traces of charcoal should have remained, since Paterculus claimed large-scale looting and burning of barbarian villages. But there is something to say in defense here too. Tiberius was a talented military leader, and it would be reckless to believe that his German campaign took place without significant battles or territorial acquisitions. On the other hand, at the end of the campaign, Tiberius returned to Rome and held a triumph. But the main theme of this celebration was the suppression of the Great Illyrian Revolt, not the results of the German campaign. Which historian is right? I believe the truth is somewhere in the middle. Tiberius' German campaign can neither be called outstanding nor a failure. Most likely, he really was unable to cross the Rhine, but he was able to occupy the left bank. Here it is necessary to say the following: after Tiberius returned to the capital, his stepson Germanicus, this is not a pun, went to Germany. And it was he who crossed the Rhine, but only in 14 AD, to the great displeasure of Tiberius, who by that time had become the ruler of Rome. Sending Tiberius to Germany can be interpreted from a political point of view. Moreover, the rule "beauty is in the eye of the beholder" also applies here. On the one hand, Octavian Augustus could have intentionally removed an overly influential military leader, even his successor, from the capital. After all, the absolute ruler of Rome was in no hurry to retire, and the appearance of a potential competitor in the capital could have confused the cards and caused a political crisis. On the other hand, sending Tiberius can also be interpreted from the point of view of a purposeful acquaintance with the legions. Octavian Augustus pulled almost a third of the army of the Roman Republic into the region. The legionnaires had to see their future ruler with their own eyes and work with him. In any case, Tiberius was already on the finish line of Octavian Augustus' powers. Thank you for watching. If you like the material, put a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. I will be very grateful.